Thank you so much for having me. I am John Bailey. I am with a company called Brand 3. We are a branding and marketing firm. So our whole mission in this marketing world is to get people to rethink marketing. So I want this to be an interactive session. So please, if you haven't yet, go ahead and connect to the chat and post your questions and comments. I'm going to have some specific questions as we go through this. I am very interested to hear your answers to these questions. So please, if you're not yet connected, go ahead and connect. If you have an issue with connecting, send Elena a message in the private chat. So I am here to talk about something that might seem rather basic to some folks if you've been in marketing for a long time. That said, I think it's often very overlooked, and that is the importance of branding. And I think that because there are so many options today, especially in digital marketing, so many tactical options out there, I think people tend to skip this very important step and go right into the tactics. And they don't necessarily do what I'm about to discuss with you beforehand, which I think is a critical error. And I think it creates a potential disconnect between you and your audience. And I think a lot of companies, their marketing will suffer because of it. So, um, while some of this might be a reminder to some, I think it's an important reminder, and I think it's all something that you need to think about. And I hope by the end of this, I'll have you rethinking your marketing efforts and following these steps before you go to market. So, with that, let's jump in. And my first question, and I really want some answers. What is brand? What is brand to you? Please share in the comments what your definition or what thoughts come to mind when I ask what is brand. So I'm looking at the comments. If you all could send some comments in, because I feel like this is often misunderstood. Branding, and what these things mean to companies and marketers today. I'm not seeing any comments, so maybe we'll just keep going. Okay, here's one from Helen. How company or product is perceived by consumers? Gold star, Helen. Well done. That is exactly right. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people, when they think of brand, they might think of logo. That's a little elementary. I think when some people think of brand, they think of reputation, which is part of it. But it's really the perception. And that's what I want to dive into here. So, like I said, Helen nailed it. Your brand is a perception. Uh, when I say, uh, you know, brands like Red Bull, for example, what words come to mind when I say the brand Red Bull, or when I say the brand Starbucks or iPhone? What words immediately come to mind? And this is important because I think when you think about these brands, it's almost probably subconscious what you're thinking about. So with Red Bull, you might think, uh, maybe you just think caffeine, pick me up, or maybe you think adventure, or maybe you think, you know, X Games, or people doing crazy sports, because that's what their marketing is about. Their whole tagline is Red Bull gives you wings. So it's kind of they're almost saying Red Bull is giving you the courage to do these crazy things. When you think of Starbucks, you think maybe you think of coffee. That's the obvious one. But maybe you're thinking of community. Maybe you're thinking of a meeting place. Maybe you're thinking of how you start your day. When you think of iPhone, maybe you think of reliability. Maybe you think of innovation, although not so much lately, unfortunately. Or maybe you think of, uh, just your connectivity. So, however you think of these brands, this is not by accident. These companies have done a lot of work with their marketing to craft this perception and to forge this perception in your mind and in the minds of their consumers. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through this. The question I always ask our clients is your brand speaking clearly to your audience? So the real issue that I think a lot of brands suffer with is that they're kind of putting out disjointed messages. There is no clear tone. There is no clear messaging. There is no clear understanding of what it is that their audience is looking for. And so instead of, uh, you know, unfortunately, instead of creating, and answering questions for their customers, they're just putting out disparate messages, and it's kind of all over the place. So instead, what you need to focus on is communicating value within seconds. So you want to think through very specific issues. So who is your ideal audience? Create what are called buyer personas or customer personas or marketing personas, however you want to define them. Think about your ideal customer and create a story around that customer. How will you solve their problem? First of all, what are their problems? And then how do you solve their problem is really the beginning of how you craft, uh, you know, your brand messaging, and why they should care about how you solve their problem is really kind of where you get into your brand promise. So you develop this brand promise by answering these questions, and ultimately that brand promise drives everything you do, whether it's digital marketing, email marketing, social media marketing, or just messaging on your website. Many companies will start their marketing and messaging focusing on solely on one audience, when in fact chances are you have multiple audiences. So it's important to identify all of your audiences that you're talking to and get a complete and total understanding of who they are and what problem you are going to solve for them. So obviously with customers, it's how do you get them from point A to point B? What is their problem, and how does your solution solve their problem in a unique and beneficial way that you can clearly define to them in a way that it defines it as value for their needs. For vendors, maybe you're looking at people to sell your solution. So you have to make it a mutually beneficial partnership for them. They have to be able to quickly assess, is this solution something that my customers are going to want? Is this going to make me succeed? Um, and oftentimes, I think when you're marketing to vendors, a lot of people will go straight into features and benefits, and I think that skips a crucial step in the brand promise, because you have to first speak their language and get them some sort of message that they can understand immediately, as opposed to having to go on the features and benefits page and scan through all the features and say, okay, this is the one I want. You want some clear, quick messaging that says, um, you know, solves this problem by X, and it's a one sentence, two sentence message. Those things can be the difference between someone reading more and someone bouncing and going to another website. Maybe you want to find some contractors. Maybe you're trying to attract people to help you provide the services that you provide. So that contractors going to want to know, are you successful? Are you going to be able to give them work? Is it the kind of work that they want? And lastly, but certainly not least important, is employees. And I think this is very often overlooked, especially if if the economy's going well and everything's going great and you're getting leads like crazy, you might think, I don't need to market. I don't need to be, worrying about my messaging and my website. I got the phone's ringing off the hook. I'm good to go. But at some point, whether you're, you know, crushing it or not, you're going to need some employees, and you're going to need the right employees. And I don't know if you've been, in the process of hiring somebody lately, but it's very difficult to attract the right kind of talent. And so your marketing, uh, plays a huge role in that. So you have to consider that audience, as as you craft not only your marketing as far as the messaging on your website, but also the messaging in your social media. These employees want to know, you know, are you do you have a good workplace culture? Do you have loyal clients? Uh, and are you more than just a job? A lot of employees want to feel involved. They want to feel that they're contributing to a greater good. So people make decisions based on you know, trust and clarity. What do you do? But more importantly, will it make my life better? I think that's the key question. Will it make my life better is how they perceive value within seconds. And it's those statements that I think are often the missing key element in a lot of marketing is people will right out of the gates, they'll make features and benefits type promises, or they'll make product feature promises that you know may be great and all, but guess what, all of your competition is making those same promises. You have to communicate clearly and effectively in quick statements. Will it make your customer's life better, and how will it make it better, and how do they get it? And we like to say that great brands play beautiful music created for the ears of an ideal audience. And what do we mean by that is, like I was talking about earlier with the issues with tactical type approaches, where you're basically just blasting out messages to a bunch of places. You might be running an ad campaign, might be running a social media campaign. If you haven't clearly defined your brand promise, there may be some inconsistencies with that messaging, and there may be a lack of general overall tone. There may be an issue with one, campaign saying one thing and another saying another thing, and people are confused as to what it is that you actually are promising to them. So, great brands and a great brand promise is really how you define that to them succinctly, so that they can quickly understand uh, what value you are going to give to them, so that they know, okay, this is a company that I can relate with, and this is a company that is going to provide me with value, and you know I'm all in. Let's look at their features and benefits. So I don't know how many people are able to connect to the chat yet, but if you could, this is a company that we worked with, and this was their tagline: your intelligent source, flexible solutions for your business. So I want to take a little bit, and I would love it if all of you would just jump in and try and guess what kind of company this is for. Come on, Helen. I know you got a good answer. Eugene, Annie, Solomia, Barbara. Exactly. Helen says, I'm not sure. Exactly. It's vague. It's vague, and it communicates nothing. Um, yeah, something related to AI, not quite. Um, I mean, you might guess, okay, maybe tech. I don't know. This was literally a company's tagline, and they were very confused as to why they were not getting leads, why they weren't gaining any traction. And they overlooked this because they thought, well, nobody really reads the tagline. Nobody really looks at this stuff. They dive in. And no, they don't. This is your gatekeeper. This messaging, these pieces of information are the gatekeeper that will, you know, mean the difference between whether somebody decides to click in and look for more information or bail and go to somebody else. When they see your intelligent source, flexible solutions for your business, they're like, I have no idea what this is and I don't have time to figure it out. Whether they have time or not, nobody has time when they're online, so they bounce. So we work with them, and so what we came up with is tailored IT solutions for business and government, where efficiency, and it looks like efficiency is spelled wrong, my mistake, and effectiveness meet. Um, now it's painfully clear what they do. They are creating tailored IT solutions for business and government. You see this and you go, okay, all right, I can relate. This makes sense. This is what I'm looking for. Now I'm going to click in and go further. So, really, ultimately, um, there was a lot of other work that went into this, but it started with this. This was the beginning of their brand promise, and everything else followed suit. And because of this, their leads on their website picked up, their SEO campaigns were more effective, their social media campaigns were more effective, because everything started with that very succinct and clear brand promise, which started with this tagline. So it makes a huge difference. You might think, oh, it's just a tagline, but like I said, everything starts here. It's all about perception. So I don't know if anyone out there has heard of StoryBrand. We're StoryBrand certified, and it's a great methodology for creating marketing content. But this is from the author of Building a Story Brand. Even if we have the best product in the marketplace, we'll lose to an inferior product if our competitor's offer is communicated more clearly. Think about that. So you think, I got the best stuff around. It's great. And all I have to do is tell people how great it is, and I'm golden. And the simple fact of the matter, and what is often overlooked, is that is simply not true. It's all about the story you're telling. And the story you're telling has to resonate with the person reading the story and experiencing the story. They have to feel like they are the hero in that story, and you are going to guide them to victory. You are making them the hero of their world. And your product is going to deliver something for them that makes their life better. And the story has to be built around that. Another thing that I think is often overlooked, unfortunately, is when it comes to customer experience, people don't relate customer experience with their marketing. And I think this is a critical error. And it's been true since the dawn of time. If you provide a subpar, poor customer experience, no amount of marketing, no amount of marketing dollars can undo that damage. Think about a large service provider that you've worked with lately. Usually it's an internet service provider that people complain about the most. But think about someone that you've had an issue with because of their customer service. Now, every time you see their marketing, you're kind of like, I don't like them. They treated me poorly. So you have to focus on delivering an exceptional customer experience. So you have to move from being reactive to proactive. reactive customer service models are outdated. Think about it. You have a problem, you call in, you get help. Instead, proactive models, they utilize an end-to-end experience design. So basically, you are anticipating any potential problems, any issues, and you're working through that by creating a journey map that helps you to uh, uh, you know steer them along a path of an exceptional customer experience, as opposed to waiting for something to break or waiting for an issue to happen and then relying on the customer to find you, seek you out, and seek out a solution. You want to anticipate all of those problems and proactively address those so that they have a better customer experience. So your brand promise, this messaging that you've developed, uh, it has to go, it has to connect with the entire customer experience that you deliver. So your brand promise, while it's going to drive a lot of your marketing efforts, it should also drive a lot of your customer service efforts, because you want to make sure that that brand promise is being adhered to by everyone in the company. So this is where you develop a journey map. So you consider each touch point. So this could be from, awareness to all the way to the purchase. So what are they thinking in each of these moments as they work through, as they navigate through the funnel? What are they thinking? What are their problems? What are their issues? How are you going to step in and be the solution? How are you going to guide them on this path of exceptional customer experience so that at the end of it, they are the hero in this journey? What is the experience you want them to have? And I'm talking about from A to Z. What experience are they having before they even know you exist? What is happening when they're actually doing a search and looking for you? Are they asking their friends on Facebook? Maybe they're skewing older and they're asking their Facebook friends for recommendations. Are they looking for solutions in Reddit? Are they looking for solutions in LinkedIn groups? You have to know where your audience, your ideal audience, is seeking out your solution, and you have to be there with your messaging and make sure that you are starting them off on an exceptional customer experience. And then you have to think about what needs to happen behind the scenes to make that all happen. So this is where, you know, you have to almost shift your thinking from we have a marketing department to being we are a marketing led organization. Everything is marketing. Sales is marketing, customer experience is marketing, support is marketing. Um, Marketing is marketing, but everything, even if you have installers, they have to be briefed on the marketing experience. Everything has to be pulled back and connected to that brand promise. It's critical, and it will make a difference in the effectiveness of every marketing campaign that you put out there. Is if there's an exceptional customer experience in every word that comes out of any of the mouths or keyboards of anyone that's associated with your company, if it's all connected to that brand promise and delivering that exceptional customer experience, everything will benefit, and everything will improve, and you'll get more sales, you'll get more business. And the only way to do that is to really think through all the things that need to happen on the back end to make sure that that is the reality that you're dealing with. One of the things that you can do to get inside the head of your customers is, if you're fortunate enough to have, let's say, Google reviews, and you have a plethora, maybe 50 plus, you know, exceptional Google reviews, even if there are some bad ones in there. And if you don't have any reviews, I highly recommend that you start getting them, gathering them, asking for them, because it's very important, especially in SEO. But anyway, one of the things you can do is pull down that content from all of your Google reviews, and then there are word cloud tools online, and there's a bunch of free ones. And essentially what it does is it takes all the words that your customers have used to talk about you in your reviews, and it puts them in this word cloud. And so this is for a roofing company. And so this is the word cloud that we did after we did a lot of work on their brand and their marketing. And this is what we wanted to see. Great company, roof, recommend, construction, insurance was in there, because a big part of their brand promise is that they would work with your insurance company to help you replace damage to your roof. So this was a validation word cloud exercise, but you can also get on the front end, before you've done any sort of brand and marketing work, you can get a lot of insight into what your customers are thinking. And there might be some words that pop out in these that you didn't really consider, but that actually might be useful in developing your brand promise and developing your messaging, because you want to speak the language of your customer. It's critical that you speak the language of your customer. So this is a great way for you to get inside their heads. Barring that, if you really wanted to go deep, another way that you could do this type of exercise is to actually interview your customers and ask them very specific and targeted questions, and record those interviews, and then run them through an AI transcription, and run that through a word cloud. And so if you don't have a bunch of Google reviews, you can do that. You can go down that road. It's a lot more labor intensive, because you actually have to talk to your customers, and you have to schedule that time and do those interviews. But I tell you what, it is absolutely critical. It is one of the best ways to get inside the heads of your customers. It's going to tell you so much more than just plugging your site into, say, SEMrush or SEMrush, and seeing what keywords they recommend, or seeing what keywords they recommend um, based on your competitors. Those tools are good for understanding what is, but they don't necessarily tell you what should be. And I think that's the key piece that a lot of marketers will miss, is they don't focus enough on what should be based on what their actual customers and clients are telling them. And again, you want to build a team who knows how to meet or exceed these expectations. And I honestly, I can't stress this enough. And this is the entire team, from the CEO down to the janitor. Everyone needs to speak the same language. They all need to understand what your company is about, what its brand promise is, what its core values are, what its mission is, and why these things are so important to the target audience. If they don't understand these things, they're simply doing a job, and they may be doing a job in a way that's acceptable, but it's not delivering on that brand promise, and it's not delivering an exceptional experience. And it makes everything else infinitely easier if you've done this one piece. It's a lot of work, but before you start marketing an organization, you have to get all your ducks in a row, and you have to make sure that you have to answer the question, would I buy from this organization? Would I purchase this product or service? And make sure that you're delivering on that every time. So the best way to control your customer experience is to intentionally create it. This is from L. Robertson, and it is just a powerful statement, and it's words to live by. So finally, I'm going to leave you with a couple of examples of some customers that we've worked with and how we transform their brand. Uh, First, I'll start with Peak. So Peak is they're they're basically in healthcare IT solutions. Um, what they originally focused on with their brand was a lot of technical jargon. They talked about a lot of the software that they used and the solutions that they offered in terms of like service names and getting into all of the sort of technical mumbo jumbo, when ultimately they weren't always speaking to technical people. They were speaking to, a lot of times they were speaking to the office managers or the practice managers of these healthcare companies who didn't understand IT jargon. So they would go to these potential clients would go to their website and be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And they weren't speaking the language of the customer. Instead, they were speaking their own internal language, and it didn't resonate with the customer. So they came to us. We completely transformed their entire brand, from their logo to their content to their website, everything. And we came up with experience a true healthcare IT partner. And that was their brand promise. Their brand promise was that they understood the healthcare industry and they understood IT, and they were going to be your partner. They were going to work with you to make sure that you don't have to worry about IT for your healthcare practice, because they're going to take care of everything for you. And that brand promise went through the entire organization. They overhauled their customer service efforts. They overhauled all of their messaging. They overhauled all of their social media, their website, their sales materials, and they experienced a huge uptick, not only in sales on the front end from their ideal client profiles, but also their close rate went up because they were communicating effectively throughout, and the potential customers were hearing the things that they needed to hear to feel comfortable to make that decision to choose them as their healthcare IT partner. Another one, and this is an interesting story, is this company's out of Baltimore, Maryland. They're called Woodfield, and they are basically an outdoor living company. And they were really, all of their marketing was focused. First of all, their brand was terrible. Their logo was terrible. Their images were not good. Their website was not good. So from a visual standpoint, they were struggling. But more than that, they were leading with their most high ticket items, and they were missing out on a huge potential opportunity within the market where they existed physically. So what we did is we worked with them not only to overhaul their visual brand and their content, but we also identified that in their geographical location, they actually had more opportunities with high net worth individuals who had the disposable income to pay for these luxury items, but they were in smaller footprint yards. They had smaller areas, and there was no way that they were going to ever be able to physically jam in a this large pool into this small yard. So uh, we ran a campaign for what's called plunge pools, which are these smaller footprint but still luxury pools, and we focused more on that, and they literally doubled their revenue in the 2 years following, from that one pivot, in their marketing. So that is when we also have a book. It's called Before You Market, and it goes a lot deeper into all of this, and it is available for free at beforeyoumarket.com. You can download a copy just by filling out a form. But now is the point where we answer some questions. So I'm going to take a sip of seltzer, and then I'm going to look at your questions. So Helen, who is the number one student here today, she gets a gold star. Asks, how do I ensure my messaging is clear and resonates with my target audience? How can I check that? Well, the most labor intensive way to do that is to find some people that that net that aren't customers who could potentially be customers, and say, hey, do me a favor, go to my website and click around, and then I'll give you 10 minutes, and then tell me what it is we do. And if they do that and then go to your website and they click around and they read your materials and they still can't clearly articulate what it is you do, then you need to completely overhaul your messaging. You need to not only make sure that your brand promises is clear and that it makes sense as to what the solution is that you provide, but you also need to make sure um, that you make it possible for someone who goes to your website uh, to find an answer to questions that they may have within 2 clicks or less. That is absolutely important. But to create a brand story that resonates with your target audience, the simple answer is, and this is the story brand answer, is identify who your ideal client is, the ICP, and make them the hero of the story that you're telling. So what I mean by that is, instead of saying, we do this, we're great at this, we provide X, you're saying, you working with us, you will achieve X. You will get this solution to this problem. You overhaul all of your messaging and the story that you're telling to retell it from the perspective of your target audience is going and reading that story and going, okay, I'm going to be able to do X, Y, and Z by working with this company. I'm going to be the hero at my company because I'm going to use their solution and it's going to make my job better. It's going to make my life better. So you have to overhaul and retell that story from their perspective, making them the hero of the story, and you are their guide. So think about that movie Jumanji. You are you're the hero going in and fighting the dragon or whatever, and the guide is that little English dude who comes in and gives you clues along the way and guides you to you being able to solve that problem. That's really the ultimate synopsis of Story Brand. If you haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. It's called Before You Story Brand. But creating that brand story with them as the hero, that is absolutely the ultimate way to resonate with your target audience. Hope that answers your question. Any other questions?
John, um, thank you very much. Thank you for answering the question. And here is one more question from Helen. How would you recommend to create that story, that a brand story that resonates with my
Yeah,
target, with your? Mhm.
yeah, that's what I was talking about. By really going in and trying to retell the story of the solution that you offer, but retell it from the perspective of the clients, and making them the hero of the story. Um, you know, it's there are multiple exercises that you can do. Um, you can survey your customers. You can do that word cloud exercise. You can interview customers. Um, you can talk to your customer service people and ask them what kinds of questions they get asked. But ultimately, you want to make sure that your brand story uses the language that the customer is familiar with, and your brand story is being told in such a way that you're making them the focus. You're making them the hero of the story.
Mm, Sounds sounds good. Okay. I can see any other questions here. So, guys, put your questions to the live chat. We have several minutes to answer. Meanwhile, there are a couple of questions I would like to ask you.
Okay.
As you mentioned, working with feedback, how can we handle negative customer experience and turn them into positive outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, it's never what people want to hear whenever I get this question, but it's always you have to, if it was a mistake that you made, you have to own it. And if it was something that you know, it was a problem that you can solve, you have to solve it and you have to solve it publicly. If it was somebody just being negative just to be negative, um, offer them the option to connect with you, but do it offline. So reply publicly and say, um, I'm sorry you had this experience, but if you can tell that they're just looking to be difficult and they're looking to kind of sort of troll you, the best thing to do is just say, I'm sorry you had this experience. Please give me your contact, private message me your contact information, and I will reach out and we'll try to figure out a solution to this. That's the best way to handle that. You don't want to engage with negative comments beyond, a comment or two. If you feel like they're just looking for a fight, you want to avoid that, because if you give them too much of an opportunity just to troll you and just to make you look bad, they will. So you have to be careful with that.
Thank you. Makes
Mhm.
sense. Okay, and one more question from me. What do you think is the role of personalization in enhancing the customer experience, and where is that red line not to cross?
Personalization is tricky because one thing you can make an error. So if you're working on personalization and you get the name wrong, or you deliver them messaging that isn't in line with what their expectations are, but you think you're matching up somebody, it can be very off-putting. So you have to be very careful to make sure that your information is correct, that the name's correct, and that you've correctly identified, say, the industry that they're in, or the potential problem that they might have. I would say if you're unsure, uh, then then be very careful about personalization, because, like I said, you can use the wrong name, or you can, let's say, for example, if I'm a digital marketing agency and I get an email from somebody that says, "Hey, John, we're the best digital marketing agency in the world. You should hire us." And I'm like, I'm a digital marketing agency. Why would I hire another digital marketing agency? It could be off-putting, and it's a waste of time and money and effort. So I would say do your homework and make sure that your information is correct before you engage in personalization. Um, but it can be very effective. So if your information is correct and you say you want to run a drip campaign, if you know that person, and you know what their potential problem is, you can guide them along with that drip campaign with very personalized content that speaks directly to them and their problem. And it can, and you're automating it, and it can drive them to take action and to convert as a client. So, um, it can be done in email drip campaigns. It can be done with advertising to a certain extent, but it can be very effective. Just make sure you do your homework.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, I can see any more questions in the chat, and it seems we covered all the questions. I think it's clear everything. So thank you, John. Thank you
Mhm.
very much for your insights, ideas, examples. It was so interesting, useful. That also that visualization of the process of the algorithm, how to think, what questions to ask. Thank you. Guys, be sure to connect with John on LinkedIn and
Please.
follow SendPulse on social media to stay connected. All the links are in the live chat. Barbara writes, thank you a lot. Thank you, Barbara, for
Yes.
joining
Thank
us
you.
today. Okay, and once again, a big thank you to all of you for joining us today. Your participation means a lot to us. Stay tuned to our social media for updates on future webinars and events. We'd love to have you join us again. Thank you and wish you all a wonderful week ahead. Goodbye and take care.
Thanks.
Bye.